during a seemingly innocuous family dinner. The conversation flowed as usual. My husband Todd discussing his work at the insurance firm, our teenage son Aaron rambling about his latest video game obsession. That's when I noticed Todd's demeanor shift, his eyes darting furtively as he excused himself from the table, whispering into his phone in the hallway. "Sarah, I promise, we'll start fresh soon. Just be patient a little longer." My heart pounded in my chest as the weight of his words sank in. "Sarah?" A chill ran down my spine as Todd returned, his expression carefully composed, as if nothing had transpired. Doubts resurfaced. The late nights at the office, the unexplained charges on our credit cards. I had suppressed them, convincing myself that his dedication to providing for our family was paramount. That night, as Todd slept soundly beside me, my mind raced, dissecting every interaction, every half-truth that had once seemed innocuous. How could the man I had sacrificed so much for, the one for whom I had put my own career aspirations on hold, betray me in this way? The following morning, I feigned normalcy, my accountant's mind already formulating a plan. If Todd thought he could deceive me, the woman who had meticulously managed our finances for decades, he was sorely mistaken. I would unravel this web of lies, one thread at a time. Poring over our banking statements, I noticed suspicious patterns. Lavish purchases, withdrawals, and transfers that defied explanation. Each discrepancy fueled my determination, hardening my resolve to expose the truth, no matter how painful. As the days passed, my investigation intensified. I scoured credit card statements, cross-referenced receipts, and flagged every anomaly. The evidence mounted, and with it, my sense of betrayal deepened. One evening, while Todd was supposedly working late, I followed a lead to an upscale apartment complex. There, in the dimly lit parking lot, I caught a glimpse of him embracing a younger woman, their bodies intertwined in a passionate kiss. My heart shattered as the realization hit me. My husband, the man I had devoted my life to, had been living a lie. The evidence of Todd's betrayal lay scattered across my office desk. Bank statements, credit card receipts, all pointing to a hidden life he had so carefully concealed. As an accountant, I prided myself on my meticulous attention to detail, but even I had been blind to the glaring discrepancies in our finances. "What's all this?" Todd's voice startled me as he entered the room, his brow furrowed in confusion. I straightened my back, marshalling every ounce of courage. "Care to explain these charges at the Grand Lux Hotel, or the monthly payments to an apartment downtown?" Todd's face paled as he glanced at the incriminating paperwork. "Marlene, it's not what you think. Don't insult my intelligence," I spat, fury coursing through my veins. "I know about Sarah. I saw you with her." A heavy silence hung in the air as Todd struggled to formulate a response. Finally, he exhaled deeply, his shoulders sagging in resignation. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." "It just happened?" I echoed incredulously. "You've been living a double life, betraying me and our family with your lies and infidelity." Todd's eyes pleaded with me, but I had no sympathy left to offer. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but we can work through this, I swear." I let out a bitter laugh. "Work through this? After you squandered our hard-earned savings on your mistress, lavished her with gifts while I scrimped and saved to make ends meet?" Rage contorted his features as he lashed out. "You think it was easy, living with a woman so consumed by her work, always crunching numbers, never having time for me?" His words stung, but I refused to let him shift the blame. "That's no excuse for what you've done. I sacrificed my own ambitions to support your career, and this is how you repay me?" Todd's head dropped, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I'm sorry, Marlene, I've made a mess of everything." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I said coldly, gathering the damning evidence. "Not anymore." As I brushed past him, our eyes met briefly, and in that moment, I saw the depth of his regret. But it was too little, too late. The man I had loved, the one I had trusted implicitly, was nothing more than a stranger cloaked in deceit. I knew then that there was no turning back. The scales had fallen from my eyes, and I would stop at nothing to regain what was rightfully mine: my dignity, my independence, and my future. In the days following my confrontation with Todd, a heavy pall hung over our once happy home. The warmth and laughter that had once filled its walls were now replaced by a suffocating silence, punctuated only by the occasional heated exchange. I want a divorce, I stated flatly one evening, my hands trembling with a mixture of fear and resolve. Todd's eyes widened in disbelief. You can't be serious, Marlene, after everything we've been through? You did this? I shot back, gesturing to the emptiness that now surrounded us. Your lies, your betrayal, they destroyed our marriage. He shook his head vehemently. We can work it out. I'll do anything. Just don't throw away our family like this. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The damage had been done, and the trust that had once bound us together lay in tatters. I knew, deep down, that there was no salvaging what remained of our broken union. Steeling my nerves, I contacted a divorce lawyer, a formidable woman named Rachel, who promised to fight for my fair share. As we pored over the financial records, a clearer picture of Todd's deception emerged. Lavish gifts, exotic vacations, all funded by our hard-earned savings. He treated her like a queen while I struggled to make ends meet, I confided in Rachel, my voice thick with emotion. Her eyes narrowed with determination. We'll make sure he pays for every penny, Marlene. This is just the beginning. True to her word, Rachel guided me through the labyrinth of legal proceedings, ensuring that every asset, every hidden account was laid bare. With each revelation, I felt a twisted sense of vindication, knowing that Todd's carefully constructed facade was crumbling around him. Yet, even as the evidence mounted, a part of me still clung to the memories of the man I had once loved. The charming, devoted husband who had promised to cherish me forever. How could someone I had trusted so implicitly have become such a stranger? In my darkest moments, I found solace in the company of my closest friend, Jenna. Over countless cups of coffee, she listened patiently as I poured out my pain, my anger, and my doubts. You're doing the right thing, Marlene, she would reassure me, her warm embrace offering a brief respite from the storm that raged within. He doesn't deserve your loyalty after what he's done. Her words, though harsh, rang true. Todd had shattered the sacred vows that had once bound us, and there was no turning back. As the divorce proceedings gained momentum, I could feel the weight of his betrayal slowly lifting from my shoulders, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose. I would emerge from this ordeal stronger, wiser, and above all, unbroken. The road ahead might be long and uncertain, but I knew that with each step I was reclaiming the life that had once been so callously stolen from me. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of Todd's betrayal seemed to bear down on me more heavily with each passing moment. Despite the support of my dear friend Jenna, I found myself drowning in a sea of doubt and anger, struggling to make sense of the life I had once known. It was during one of our coffee dates that Jenna broached a subject I had been too afraid to confront. "Have you considered hiring a private investigator?" she asked gently, her eyes filled with concern. I recoiled at the suggestion, my mind immediately conjuring up images of seedy detectives and sordid affairs laid bare. I'm not sure I want to know any more than I already do. Jenna reached across the table, her warm hand enveloping mine. Marlene, you deserve the truth, all of it. Isn't it better to have the facts than to be haunted by uncertainty? Her words struck a chord, and I knew she was right. As painful as it might be, I needed to uncover the full extent of Todd's betrayal, to finally shed light on the secrets he had kept hidden for so long. With Jenna's help, I tracked down a reputable private investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Samantha, who promised to handle my case with discretion and professionalism. Just tell me what you need, and I'll get to the bottom of it, she assured me during our initial consultation. I steeled myself, listing off the details I had uncovered. The mysterious apartment, the unexplained charges, and the elusive woman named Sarah. Samantha nodded, her keen eyes taking in every detail. Leave it to me, she said with a confident nod. True to her word, within a matter of days, Samantha had unearthed a trove of damning evidence. Surveillance photos captured Todd's clandestine meetings with a woman identified as Clarice, a younger, stunning brunette who appeared to be his mistress. He's been lavishing her with gifts, jewelry, designer clothes, all paid for with your money, Samantha reported grimly, sliding a stack of incriminating receipts across the table. As I pored over the evidence, my hands trembled with a potent mix of rage and heartbreak. This Clarice was no mere fling. Todd had been leading an entire double life, one funded by the very savings I had worked so tirelessly to build. That bastard, I spat, hot tears of anger stinging my eyes. He's going to pay for every single lie. Samantha's expression hardened with determination. We'll make sure of it. This is just the beginning. With the truth laid bare before me, I felt a newfound sense of resolve coursing through my veins. No longer would I be the naive, trusting wife, blindly following the path laid out for me. This time, I would be the one calling the shots, and Todd would soon learn the true cost of his deceit. Armed with the damning evidence gathered by Samantha, I felt a newfound determination coursing through my veins. It was time to confront Todd and his mistress head-on, to strip away the veil of lies that had shrouded our lives for far too long. With Jenna by my side for moral support, we made our way to the upscale apartment complex where Clarice resided. My heart pounded with a mixture of anger and trepidation as we approached the sleek glass doors, the weight of what I was about to do bearing down on me. "Are you sure about this, Marlene?" Jenna asked, her voice laced with concern. I took a deep breath, steadying my resolve. He needs to face the consequences of his actions. No more running, no more hiding. Jenna gave my hand a reassuring squeeze, and together we stepped inside. The ride up to Clarisse's floor was agonizingly slow, each passing second fueling the fire burning within me. When the elevator doors finally opened, I strode down the plush hallway with purpose, my heels clicking against the marble floor like a metronome counting down to the inevitable confrontation. I rapped sharply on the door, my knuckles stinging from the force of my blows. Moments later, it swung open, revealing a startled Clarisse clad in a silk robe, her perfectly coiffed hair mussed from what was undoubtedly a passionate tryst with my husband. "Marlene?" she gasped, her eyes widening in shock. "What are you doing here?" Before I could respond, Todd appeared behind her, his expression a mixture of guilt and defiance. "Marlene, this isn't what it looks like." "Save it," I spat, shoving past Clarisse and into the lavish apartment. "I know everything, the lies, the affairs, the money you've been funneling to support your little mistress here." Clarisse's mouth fell open in outrage. "How dare you barge in here and make accusations? Todd loves me and we're going to be together." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Is that what he told you? That he'd leave his wife and family for a pretty little thing like you?" Todd stepped forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "Marlene, please, let's discuss this like adults." "Oh, we're well past discussion," I snarled, reaching into my purse and retrieving the stack of evidence Samantha had provided. "I have proof of every sordid detail. The secret apartment, the lavish gifts, all paid for with money that should have gone to supporting our family." As I brandished the damning photos and receipts, Todd's face drained of color. Clarisse, too, appeared shaken, her confident facade crumbling as the truth laid bare. "You've been using me," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. Todd's gaze darted between us, his eyes pleading for understanding. "It's not like that, Clarisse. I never meant to hurt either of you." But his words fell on deaf ears. The betrayal ran too deep, the wounds too raw to be soothed by empty platitudes. "Save your lies for someone who still believes them," I spat, turning on my heel and storming towards the door. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." As I swept out of the apartment, Jenna hurrying to keep pace beside me, I felt a strange sense of liberation wash over me. The shackles of deceit had been broken, and for the first time in months I could breathe freely. The road ahead would be long and arduous, but I was ready to face it head-on. Todd's misdeeds had been laid bare, and now it was time for him to face the consequences of his actions. No more hiding, no more lies. The reckoning had begun. In the aftermath of my explosive confrontation with Todd and Clarisse, a sense of grim determination settled over me. I had laid bare the truth of his deceit, and now it was time to make him pay. Not just for the lies, but for every penny he had squandered on his sordid affairs. With Rachel, my formidable divorce lawyer, by my side, we set about meticulously documenting every financial betrayal, every hidden transaction that had drained our accounts over the years. The evidence was damning, a paper trail of excess and greed that left no room for doubt. As we prepared to file the divorce papers, Rachel turned to me, her steely gaze unwavering. "We're not just going after a settlement here, Marlene. We're going to bury him." Her words sent a chill down my spine, but I knew she was right. Todd's actions had gone far beyond the bounds of a simple infidelity. He had systematically looted our hard-earned savings, betraying the very foundation of trust upon which our marriage had been built. When the news of our impending divorce hit the headlines, the fallout was swift and merciless. Todd's once pristine reputation as a respected insurance agent lay in tatters, his clients fleeing in droves as the sordid details of his affairs came to light. How could we have trusted him with our policies when he couldn't even keep his own house in order? One former client lamented to the press. As Todd's professional life crumbled around him, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction watching him reap the consequences of his actions. No more hiding behind a facade of respectability. The world now knew him for the liar and cheat he truly was. But my revenge didn't stop there. With Rachel's guidance, I dug deeper into Todd's financial dealings, uncovering a tangled web of shady investments and ethical breaches that threatened to strip him of his insurance license altogether. He's been playing fast and loose with client funds for years, Rachel revealed, her expression grim, using their premiums to fund his lavish lifestyle and pay off his mistresses. The evidence was irrefutable, and before long, the governing board had no choice but to revoke Todd's license, effectively ending his career in disgrace. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, each court appearance became a public spectacle, with Todd's sordid misdeeds laid bare for all to see. I watched with a strange sense of detachment as he squirmed under the weight of his own lies, his once cocky demeanor replaced by a pathetic whimpering as he begged for leniency. But I was unmoved. He had made his bed, and now it was time for him to lie in it, alone, disgraced, and utterly ruined. In the end, the settlement was a mere formality. I had already taken back what was most precious, my dignity, my independence, and the knowledge that I had emerged from this ordeal a stronger, more resilient woman. As I watched Todd slink away from the courthouse, his head bowed in shame, I felt a strange sense of pity for the broken man he had become. But that pity was quickly overshadowed by a profound sense of relief. The nightmare was finally over, and I was free to start anew, unburdened by the weight of his betrayal. As the dust settled from the explosive divorce proceedings, I could scarcely recognize the man who had once been my husband. Todd's world had come crashing down around him, and the once cocky insurance agent was now a mere shadow of his former self. "This isn't over, Marlene," he snarled during one of our final court appearances, his eyes burning with a mixture of rage and desperation. "You haven't seen the last of me." But his threats rang hollow, a feeble attempt to cling to the illusion of power he had once wielded. The truth was laid bare. He was a disgraced shell of a man, his reputation in tatters, his finances in ruin. With each passing day, new revelations emerged, painting a picture of a man consumed by greed and deceit. It seemed that Clarice had been merely the tip of the iceberg, with evidence surfacing of multiple affairs spanning years, each mistress lavished with expensive gifts and exotic vacations funded by our hard-earned savings. He treated them like queens while I scraped by, pinching every penny, I confided to Jenna over coffee, my hands trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Jenna's expression hardened, her usual warmth replaced by a steely resolve. "He's going to pay for every single lie, Marlene. We'll make sure of it." True to her word, Jenna became my fiercest ally, standing by my side as we methodically dismantled every aspect of Todd's carefully constructed facade. With the help of Rachel and her team of investigators, we uncovered a tangled web of financial misdeeds that went far beyond simple infidelity. It seemed that Todd had been using client funds to bankroll his lavish lifestyle, siphoning off premiums and investment returns to fuel his insatiable appetite for excess. The evidence was damning, and before long, the governing bodies had no choice but to take action. "Mr. Wilkins, in light of the overwhelming evidence of ethical breaches and financial misconduct, we have no choice but to revoke your insurance license, effective immediately," the stern-faced judge declared, her gavel punctuating the finality of her words. As Todd slumped in his seat, his face ashen, I felt a strange sense of vindication wash over me. This was the true cost of his betrayal. Not just the loss of his marriage and family, but the complete and utter annihilation of everything he had worked for. In the weeks that followed, word of Todd's downfall spread like wildfire, his once respectable name becoming a byword for duplicity and greed. Former clients and colleagues turned their backs on him, their expressions a mix of disgust and pity for the man who had so thoroughly disgraced himself. I always knew there was something off about him. One former colleague remarked to the press, shaking his head in disbelief, but I never imagined the depths of his depravity. Through it all, Todd maintained a stoic silence, his once boisterous personality replaced by a sullen, withdrawn demeanor. It was as if the weight of his misdeeds had finally crushed him, leaving behind a hollow shell of a man. As for me, I found solace in the knowledge that justice had been served, that the man who had so callously betrayed me had finally reaped the consequences of his actions. It was a small victory, to be sure, but one that filled me with a newfound sense of strength and resolve. The road ahead might still be long and uncertain, but for the first time, in what felt like an eternity, I could see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. A chance to rebuild, to start anew, and to reclaim the life that had once been so cruelly stolen from me. The day my divorce from Todd was finally finalized, I expected to feel a sense of relief, a weight lifted from my shoulders. Instead, as I stood outside the courthouse, the crisp autumn breeze whipping through my hair, I was overcome by a strange mix of emotions: sadness, anger, and a profound sense of loss. This was the end of an era, the closing of a chapter in my life that had once held so much promise. The dreams Todd and I had shared, the future we had so carefully planned, all of it now reduced to a stack of legal documents and a judge's solemn pronouncement. "Are you okay?" Jenna's gentle voice broke through my reverie as she approached, her warm hand finding mine in a comforting embrace. I forced a smile, blinking back the tears that threatened to spill forth. "I'll be fine. It's just a lot to process." Jenna nodded in understanding, her own eyes shimmering with a mixture of sympathy and pride. "You've been through hell, Marlene, but you came out on the other side stronger than ever." Her words struck a chord within me, and I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this moment. The nights spent poring over financial records, the countless hours spent strategizing with Rachel, the confrontations with Todd and his mistresses. Each step had been a crucible, forging me into a woman I scarcely recognized. Gone was the naive, trusting wife who had so blindly followed the path laid out before her. In her place stood a woman tempered by the fires of betrayal, a warrior who had stared down the ugliest depths of human deceit and emerged victorious. As I looked back on the wreckage of my former life, a strange sense of clarity washed over me. The pain, the heartbreak, the rage, it had all been worth it, for it had revealed a strength within me that I never knew existed. "You're right, Jenna," I said, squeezing her hand in gratitude. "I am stronger now, and I have all of you to thank for that." A warm smile spread across her face, and in that moment I knew that no matter what lay ahead, I would never be alone. The bonds forged in the fires of this ordeal were unbreakable, a sisterhood born of shared struggle and unwavering support. In the days and weeks that followed, I found myself slowly but surely reclaiming the pieces of the life that had been shattered by Todd's betrayal. With the financial settlement secured, I was finally able to breathe freely, unburdened by the weight of his deceit. Bit by bit, I began to rebuild, exploring new interests and rekindling long-forgotten passions. The accounting firm I had once abandoned in pursuit of Todd's dreams welcomed me back with open arms, and I found myself relishing the familiar rhythm of crunching numbers and analyzing spreadsheets. But even as I immersed myself in work, a part of me yearned for something more. A connection. A chance to open my heart once again to the possibility of love and companionship. It was during a chance encounter at a local coffee shop that I met him. A kind-eyed stranger whose warm smile and easy laughter immediately put me at ease. As we fell into easy conversation, I found myself captivated by his gentle spirit and unwavering integrity, qualities that had been so sorely lacking in my previous relationship. Slowly, cautiously, I began to let my guard down, allowing myself to be vulnerable in a way I hadn't been in years. And though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew that this time I would walk it with my eyes wide open, my heart fortified by the lessons of the past. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could see a future unfurling before me, one filled with promise and possibility. The shadows of Todd's betrayal still lingered, but they no longer held the power to consume me. I was free at last to embrace the life I had so longed for. A life lived on my own terms, guided by the unwavering strength that had carried me through the darkest of times. And as I stepped forward into the unknown, I did so with a renewed sense of purpose, my head held high and my spirit unbroken.